first begin with the asymptotes definition again. So basically it is a line, equation of a line such that any graph which you have has an infinite branch, okay, close to that line. So when you draw the graph or the curve of the function close to the line, you will see that the function is getting almost parallel to it and not meeting it. So it is like a branch and which meets at infinity. Okay, so I had shown this earlier also. So here you can see these are the two asymptotes which are vertical, and the graph, this branch of this function is getting closer and closer to this and moving towards infinity. Same with the horizontal asymptote, which is the y-axis. So again the branch is getting closer and closer to this line. Okay, so you can see this particular graph has three asymptotes, two vertical and one horizontal. Okay, so again, as I had taken up this particular function, y is 1 by x minus 2 plus 4. So you can see that as your x tends to something closer to 2 from the right of 2. So when we come from bigger numbers and then we are approaching 2, so we come from this side 4 and then 3 and then we reach 2 ultimately. So when we do that, your graph is going to move towards plus infinity. It is going to get smaller and it is going to get closer to 2. So the difference is going to get smaller and smaller, and the values of y are going to get bigger and bigger, okay, in magnitude. So it will tend to plus infinity. Same way, if we look at the other branch, when we are approaching 2 from the smaller side, from the left of 2, so the difference again is getting smaller and smaller, but the values of the function are becoming now negative and they are becoming very very small. So you are moving towards minus infinity. So this is the effect of this vertical asymptote here. And the horizontal asymptote, so we also see that when your x is becoming very very large, so when it is moving towards infinity, this expression or this term becomes very small, close to 0. So your value of y is approaching 4. So in both the directions, as you take either x tending to plus infinity or you take x tending to minus infinity, in both these directions the value of your y, the function value, will be approaching the number 4. So when you come from above, again you are not going to cross this line y equals to 4, and when you're coming from below, again you're not going to cross this line y equals to 4. The values of the function is going are going to approach to or get closer to the number 4. Okay, so this is again the effect of the two asymptotes. So here we have a function as such, where which we can graph and see what role does the asymptote play in the shape of the curve. Okay, so this is how the shape of the curve is close to the asymptote. You have to make it almost parallel to the asymptote after a certain stage. So initially you can make it in this way, that the distance is keeping on decreasing. So as you are far from this, you have a bigger distance, and then gradually the distance keeps on decreasing, and then ultimately you can make it almost parallel to the asymptote. Okay, now the next thing was how to calculate or find out the equations of the asymptotes to a function. So the working rule is, for finding vertical asymptotes, you have to find out these limits. So when you say that x equals to c is a vertical asymptote, that means either of these two limits or maybe both of these two limits are infinite. So they could be plus infinity or minus infinity. Both of them can be simultaneously tending to infinity, or it may happen that only one of them tends to infinity. So that depends on the equation of your function fx. But if you can find such a c such that excuse me, either of these limits are infinite, then you would say x equals to c is the equation of your vertical asymptote of the graph of f. And for calculation or for finding the horizontal asymptote, you have to find limit of the function as x tends to either plus or minus infinity. And if either of them is a finite number, then you would say y equals to that finite number is an asymptote, which is obviously a horizontal line. You will see it is parallel to the x-axis. So it is an horizontal asymptote of the graph of f. So is this working rule fine? Anyone has any doubts in this? Yes, Nivedita?
Ma'am, the screen is not visible to me. I have hung up 3 times and then joined again, but still it is not visible.
Is it fine with everybody else?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then probably Nivedita, you have a internet problem. What do I do? Do I again share my screen? So that is.
Ma'am, audio is clear.
Okay. No, what I can do is I can again stop sharing and then start sharing again. So that is what I can do. Just wait. Now is it visible? I have done it again.
Yes, ma'am, now it is visible. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so is this part clear to everyone, the working rule for finding asymptotes? So this is like a shortcut method. This is not the actual way asymptotes are defined, but when you ultimately have to reduce or come down to the steps of finding asymptotes, this is what the step is. Okay, so in order to find vertical asymptotes, you have to find a C. Sorry, you have to look for a C. So this thing you have to look for first, and then you have to check which of these limits, or it can happen that probably both of these limits are infinite, or only one of them is infinite. So that depends, and you may have more than one C. So that means you can have more than one vertical asymptote also. So you should be looking for each of the values. Okay, so and exhaust all the possibilities and get the equations of all the vertical asymptotes. And for horizontal asymptotes, you don't have to look for any number. You just have to find the limits of the function as x tends to infinity and or minus infinity, and if that is a finite number, then you would say there is a horizontal asymptote. And it may so happen that a function may not have any asymptotes, so that is when this limit. So for any c possible, none of these limits, if they are not infinite, or if these limits are not finite, then in that case you will say that either of the two types of asymptotes do not exist. So it's not that every f should have both vertical and as horizontal asymptotes. So they may or may not exist depending on the values of these limits. Okay, so is it fine? This part. Okay, I'll move ahead then. This is an example. So you just find, I think we discussed this. So just tell me what all asymptotes we can have. Vertical asymptotes. What is that number?
3 and minus 3.
3 and minus 3. So you can check the limits for this function when x is less than 3, bigger than 3. So 3 minus and 3 plus. So when you find these limits, you see that when you take x tending to 3 minus, this expression in the denominator gets smaller and smaller, but it gets negative. Okay, so that is why the limit is minus infinity. And in this case again, when you take x tending to 3 plus, so you are close to 3 but bigger than 3 values are given to x. So in that case again, denominator is smaller and smaller, but it is positive. So your expression becomes infinite. Okay, so in both the cases you have infinite. One is minus infinity, one is plus infinity. So this gives you a vertical asymptote. The other c value you can take is minus 3. So again, when you take minus 3, since it is a square expression here, so it is going to give you similar results. But when you take minus 3 minus, so when you're taking values which are smaller than minus 3, this denominator expression is very small, close to 0, but it is positive, so the limit is infinite. And in this case, the denominator value is going to get negative but smaller, close to 0, so this expression will have a limit minus infinity. So in either case you have the infinite limits, so this is a vertical asymptote. And regarding the horizontal asymptote, what you have to do is find limit of this expression as x tends to infinity. Okay, so for that we'll apply the method where we divide by the highest power of x. So when we divide the numerator and denominator by x square, we'll get 1 plus 1 by x square here and 1 minus 9 by x square. So when you take the limit x tending to infinity, the second terms in each of these gets 0 and you are left with 1 by 1. So basically it is the ratio of the coefficients. So since both the terms are having same highest degree, so it is 1 by 1, which is 1. And similarly, when you take x tending to minus infinity, this limit will become 1. So y equals to 1 is your horizontal asymptote. Okay, so these are the three asymptotes which this graph has. So if you roughly want to sketch the graph only on the basis of these asymptotes, okay, not on the, we haven't checked the other information, but if we just want to sketch the graph on basis of this, so I'll just roughly draw it here. You have three asymptotes. One is at plus 3, one is at minus 3. Then you have one vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote at y equals to 1. So these are your. Now looking at the limits, we'll be making a rough sketch of the graph. Okay, so these dotted lines are your asymptotes. Now, what does the horizontal asymptote tell us? That when your x is becoming very, very large, your fx is tending towards 1. So this is 1 here. Okay, so that means you would be having a branch which is getting close to the line fx y equals to 1. Okay, as your x becomes very, very large. So it should be something here. Okay, let us just roughly get an idea. So it should be somewhere here like this, or it could be like this as well. And from the other two asymptotes, as you tend to 3 from the right side, so if we look at this region first, so as you are tending to 3 from the right hand side, the function is approaching infinity. Okay, so that means it has to go up. So this should be the shape of your function using these two information here. So one information that we know is that as x tends to infinity, your fx tends to 1. So it is either here like this, or it could have been below also. But since we can also see that when you take x tending to 3 plus, that means when you're moving towards 3 from the right side of 3, your function is approaching infinity, so you have to move upwards like this. So this should be the shape in this region close to these two lines. Then let us move to this region in between minus 3 and plus 3. So here you again have two asymptotes. One is your y equals to 1 and the other one is the line 3. Now as you approach 3 from the left side of 3, your function is moving towards infinite, minus infinity. So it would be actually going down. Okay, and here you do not have any values of x becoming infinite. So it could be somewhere here. So we do not know what is happening inside here, but all we can say is that your function has to move towards minus infinity. So this would be the branch. It could come or meet at origin, or it could go. So we can find out the other points of intersection and see how this is behaving here. Now let us come close to this line again on the right side of minus 3. So as you approach minus 3 from its right side, that means from values that are bigger, okay, so when you are coming from this part, x approaching minus 3 from the right side of minus 3, then the limit is minus infinity. So again the branch is going down, okay, so it should be something like this. In between we are not sure about the shape of the graph, so let us leave it, because we'll have to do some other exercise for knowing the shape. And the other limit which we'll use is, so again now we'll use the two limits, that is when x approaches minus infinity, fx is approaching 1. So that is one limit which we are going to see. And the other one is that as you are approaching minus 3 from values to the left of minus 3, that is x approaching minus 3 minus, your function fx is approaching plus infinity. So this will be the branch in this particular region. Okay, you have to approach to plus infinity, and on this side you are approaching the line y equals to 1. So this is a rough sketch of the graph. In between, since this limit doesn't work here, so we are not going to apply this. So in between you can have some shape which we have to check the intersection points. We also have to check other things like increasing, decreasing, or points of maxima. If there are any critical points, we can check. So based on that we'll be able to find out the shape in between. But otherwise this is how the asymptotes tell us about the graph. Okay, is this fine? Yes. So if you have done the other steps, yes, like finding intersection points and checking for critical points, so then after that when you find the asymptotes you will get the final shape of the graph. Okay. Now I move on to the next technique. So here this question which I have taken, and when you see the book you will find some more questions similar to this. So in all these questions your y is explicitly defined in terms of x. Okay, so this is an explicitly defined function. Your y is on one side, fx is equal to y. So you have y on one side and you have the expression in terms of x on the other side. So it is very easy for us to calculate such limits. Okay, we can easily calculate such limits. But what if you have a equation of a graph or a function where it is not a explicitly defined function? So you may have expressions which have terms in x and y appearing together, a product of x and y appearing. So in that case, how do you find these limits, and then how do you find the asymptotes? Okay, so there is another technique which you can use. So that's an alternate procedure. If you have implicitly defined functions, so for them what you do is, in order to find asymptotes parallel to x-axis, that means if you have to find the horizontal asymptotes, you have to equate to 0 the real linear factors in the coefficient of highest degree term of x. So what you have to do is, in the entire expression you locate for the highest degree term of x. Say the highest degree term of x is x cube. Okay, say x cube is the highest degree term which you have in the entire equation. Then you take its coefficient. So whatever is along with x cube, you take the coefficient part, equate it to 0, and find or equate to 0 the real linear factors. So whatever is the coefficient may have some factors, okay, which are linear. So if that happens, and they are also real, so that means they should not give you any imaginary values. So if you have factors in the coefficients that are linear and real, equate them to 0 to get your horizontal asymptotes. Same for vertical asymptotes, you have to find asymptotes parallel to y-axis. So you look for the highest degree term of y, take its coefficient. If the coefficient has factors that are again linear and real, equate them to 0 and get the equation of the asymptotes, okay, which are vertical. So these two things you have to keep in mind. Firstly, the coefficient should have factors that are linear, and secondly, they should be real. So no imaginary factors you are going to take. So if that happens, then the equation of the curve is going to have an asymptote And if that happens only for y, then you have only vertical asymptotes. If that happens only for x, then you just have horizontal asymptotes. If it happens for both x and y, you have both types. And if it doesn't for either of them, there are no asymptotes. So again, the same set of possibilities you can have, and this procedure is applicable to all types of questions. The question which we just did, you can also do it by this procedure, or for implicitly defined functions, you have no other choice, in fact, then you have to apply this method. Okay, so you just note down this method. I'll just take up an example on this. So what you have to do, remember, take the coefficient of highest degree term of x, then find out factors of that coefficient part which are linear and real, and once you find out those factors, equate them to 0. Okay, that will give you the equation of the horizontal asymptote, and same for vertical. Okay, is this definition clear? Okay, so I'll take up an example. Now this is your function. So here you can see that it is an implicitly defined function. So you have like product terms of x and y occurring. So how do you find asymptotes for this? So then in this case, using limits is not a very good option for us. So it is not very easy to find the limits. So what we'll do is we'll apply the previous method. So what is the highest degree term of x? Yes. What is x square? And what are the coefficients of x square?
9 and 1.
9 and?
No, 9.
Just 9? Is there any other term which has x square?
Y square.
Yes. So you have two terms which have x square. Collect them together on one side. Take its coefficient. So if you collect it on the left side, the coefficient would be y square minus 9. Okay, and then find out factors of that coefficient. So y square minus 9, you can factorize it as y plus 9 into y minus 9. Equate those two factors to 0. They are real factors and they are linear factors, so the asymptotes will exist. Equate them to 0 to get the equation of the asymptotes. So let us see. Okay, I've taken up first vertical asymptotes. So for vertical asymptotes, you have to do the similar process for y. Take the highest degree term of y. So there are two terms which have y square. This one and this term. These two terms have the highest degree term in y square. Take the coefficient of y square. So from here you get x square. From this, if you shift it on the left side, you will get minus 4, and then its factors. So you factorize this, you have x minus 4 into x plus 4. Both these factors are linear and they are having real roots. So you equate them to 0. Yes?
Ma'am, x minus 2 होगा और x plus 2.
Okay, sorry. Yes.
X.
Yes. X minus 2 and x plus 2. So both of them are linear, both are real when you find the roots. So you equate them to 0, get the roots, and these two expressions are going to give you the vertical asymptotes. So this particular function has two vertical asymptotes. One is at x equals to 2 and one at x equals to minus 2. Okay. Now for the horizontal asymptotes, as I had explained, you take the highest degree term in x square. So it has coefficients y square and 9. When you shift them on one side, you get the coefficient as y square minus 9. Now this has factors y minus 3 into y plus 3. Both are linear, both are real roots, both have real roots. So when you equate them to 0, you get two equations which are equations of the horizontal asymptotes. So this particular function has two horizontal asymptotes as well. One is y equals to 3 and one is y equals to minus 3. So as I said, this procedure is applicable to all types of questions, not just implicitly defined functions, but you can do it for the other question which we just did. Okay, same method.
Mom?
Yes.
If there wasn't y square on the left side,
If?
And then did it. If there wasn't, if except x square plus y square, x square y square, it would have been just x square.
Okay.
Then
Then the coefficient is not linear. So we want to have the coefficient as linear. Suppose this particular expression has just one term in x square, say only this term. So you can't say 9 is equal to 0. Okay, it should have linear factors. The coefficient part should contain linear factors. So if there are no linear factors, then there are no asymptotes.
okay.
Okay, so the coefficient part y square, x square minus 4, for example, this part should have any number of linear factors, which when solving gives you real roots. So both these things are very important. One is having linear factors, and one is those factors should have real roots. So if that happens, only then you can say. So for example, if my coefficient was x square plus 4, okay, now can you have any real and linear factors for this?
No, ma'am.
No. If you split this, you will write this as, or if you factorize, this is how you can write. Okay, so this expression is this, and these two expressions or the roots of these two factors are not real. Okay, so either if you do not have real factors or roots which are real, or if you do not have factors which are linear, then in either of the two cases you would say that this particular function has no asymptotes in that either vertical or horizontal, depending on whose coefficient you are taking. Okay, is it fine? Yes. So we can try doing or using the same method for the previous question here. So if you look at this part, which is the highest degree term in y, it is y only, y raised to the power 1. What is the coefficient of y? It is x square minus 9. So if you shift this on this side, you get the coefficient of y as x square minus 9. X square minus 9 can be factorized into x minus 3 into x plus 3. So equating them to 0, you get the two vertical asymptotes. So when you take the coefficient of y, you are going to get the vertical asymptotes, and here we have the two vertical asymptotes given. Okay, now you take the coefficient of the highest degree term in x square. So from the left side, you have the coefficient as 1. On the right side, the coefficient is y. Okay, so when I rearrange the terms, I can write this function expression as x square 1 minus y, and the other terms would come. So the highest degree term in x is x square. Equate its coefficient part if it has real and linear factors. So it does have a linear factor, which is y minus 1. Equate this to 0, so you get your horizontal asymptote. Okay, so that method can work for all types of questions, whether the function is an explicitly defined function or it is an implicitly defined function. You can use that method for all types of questions. Okay, so you don't have to worry how to find the limits in that case. So it's like your choice. No such specification would be there in the exam which method to apply. So you can use any of the methods for curve sketching. Basically, we'll have to use them. Is this part okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So now I'll move to the next topic, which is the last topic in this section, that is vertical tangents and cusps. So when a particular function has a graph with vertical tangents, that means tangents that are parallel to the y-axis, then how would the shape of the curve look like? Okay, and cusp, again we'll see this is some special type of a point which you will have on your function, and how the graph of the function will look in a neighborhood or in a region close to such occurrences. Okay, so first we'll see how to define. So firstly we will make some assumption regarding the function fx. So it should be a function that is continuous at a particular point P. So we have to check the behavior of a particular point P in terms of being a cusp or not, or if it has a vertical tangent at that point or not. So we have a point P on the graph of the function where the x coordinate is equal to c, and we are also assuming, or we also have another condition, that the function f is continuous at that point. Okay, then if your derivative of the function becomes infinite as x approaches c. Okay, so if that happens in addition, so you have these three conditions. One is you have any point P on the graph of the function. At that point P, function is continuous and the derivative of the function becomes infinite as x approaches that number c. Then the graph of the function will have a vertical tangent at P if the graph turns smoothly through P. So we'll see mathematically what this smoothly means. Okay, so it is not having any abrupt changes there, so it is turning smoothly, and it is having a cusp if it changes direction abruptly there. Okay, so if it doesn't change direction, it is moving smoothly, then you say it has a vertical tangent, or if it just abruptly changes, you say it has a cusp at that point. Okay, so we'll see what this smoothly means or how you check that it is moving smoothly. So you are going to find limits of the derivative at the point C, and if the left hand and right hand derivatives are having the same sign, that is both are either plus infinity or both are equal to minus infinity. So if the limit of both these expressions is same, plus infinity or both minus infinity, in that case you are going to say the graph of fx has a vertical tangent at the point P. Okay, and if they have limits which are infinite but with opposite signs, so if one of them is plus infinity, the other one would be minus infinity. So if that happens, then we say the graph of the function has a cusp at the point P. Okay, so these three things you have to remember. First, there should be a point P on the graph of the function at which the function is continuous. So remember this part. Why is this important? Can anyone tell that your function should be continuous?
And because if it is not continuous, it should not be differentiated.
Yes, we will not be able to differentiate the function if it is not continuous. So in order to
Yes, ma'am.
check something regarding the derivative, we have to check something regarding the derivative and not the function. So derivative will exist only if the function is continuous at that point. Okay, so what we are doing is we are finding left hand and right hand limits of the derivative at some point C. So at this point it is essential that the function should be continuous to start with. Okay, so can somebody can you try and relate this to asymptotes? Any relation with asymptotes? Looking at this definition, can you make out some relation with asymptotes? A vertical tangent and a vertical asymptote. When we define a vertical asymptote for a function, what do we say? Or how do we find out? The first
It almost approaches it, but tangent would touch it.
How does that first method work? What do we do in that method? For finding vertical asymptotes, what do we do?
And we have to find a number on which the function is approaching infinity.
Yes, and what are we doing here? We are again finding a number at which the derivative is becoming infinity.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it like a similar process which we are doing on the derivative now? So now we are not taking the original function, we are looking at the derivative. So that's another function, say call it g, and you are doing a similar process on that derivative function. Okay, so what you are doing is you are finding out some c such that limit as x approaches c minus and this limit is an infinite limit. So basically, whenever a function has a vertical tangent at P, its derivative is going to have a vertical asymptote at that particular point. Okay, so if the derivative of the original function has a vertical asymptote, the original function is going to have a vertical tangent at that particular point. Okay, is this relation clear to you? So if your fx is given to you, you can differentiate it and find the derivative. If you plot the graph of the derivative function, the new function which you have got, you will see that at this point P, you are going to get vertical asymptotes which have the equation x equals to c. Okay, so you will get a vertical asymptote at that particular point for the derivative of f, not f but for the derivative, and that will tell you that if that happens, then originally the function f is going to have a vertical tangent at that point. Okay, so this is how the two things are related. And you can say the same when you have a cusp also, the same thing happens. So let's see the diagrams. So if you have a vertical tangent, that means both the limits of f dash as x approaches c are either plus infinity or they are minus infinity. So in that case, so you can see here that if you find the slope of the tangent line, it is going to become, or the tangent line when you draw, it is going to become a vertical line. So at this point C, there will be a sharp change in the behavior of the function. But if the two limits of the derivative are positive infinity, then it is going to keep on increasing, and this is how it will take a shape close to this point. So only close to this point, we do not know whether it is going like this or it is going up, so it could have any shape. Okay, or how fast it is moving up, so it may have any shape slightly beyond the point, but close to this point, this is how the graph will look like. And if you have a vertical tangent, there's another possibility that both the limits are minus infinity, then in that case it will be a throughout decreasing function. Okay, so either it is throughout increasing or it is throughout decreasing, but the limits at of f dash at that point C become infinite. So in these two cases, you are going to get a vertical tangent, and this is how a cusp shape looks like in a particular graph. So in this case, you have one limit being infinite plus infinity and the other limit being minus infinity. So to the left of C, you will find that your f dash is positive. So if it's plus infinity, if it is definitely positive, so that means your function is going to have an increasing behavior to the left of C, and to the right of C it is going to have a decreasing behavior, so it is going to fall, and there will be a sharp change here. So it is not like the smooth maxima point which you see. Okay, so it is not like that, it is going to have a sharp turning here, and if you just take them up or rotate them upwards, so you will get the other shape. So these two branches, if you just take like the images, or you would fold the sheet and you just take them in the upward direction, so this is the other shape which you can get, which is given here. So in this case, what is happening, it is decreasing first. So C minus, the limit is minus infinity, so it is having a negative derivative, so the function will be decreasing and then it is going to increase. Okay, so you can see that from this thing, if you just rotate the two branches, so like this one, how do you achieve, you just shift one of the branches up. Okay, so so if you just shift this branch up, okay, and the other branch remains the same, you are going to get this shape, right? If you now do not change the left branch and you just shift the right branch again, take it up, you are going to get the first shape. Okay, and then if you shift both the branches up, you are going to get this shape. Okay, so it is the same behavior, but the only thing which you have to remember is that in these two cases, if it is an increasing function, it remains increasing throughout, and if it is decreasing, it remains decreasing. Here the behavior changes from increasing to decreasing or from decreasing to increasing. So these are the four possibilities which you will get. So this is not like all possible types of cusps. There are some other types of cusps also, but for your syllabus as such, we are required to do only these four different shapes, and this is the this is obtained by taking limits of the derivative of the function. Okay, so here we are not taking the limit of the original function, we are just taking the derivative first, and then we are finding some c at which the derivative has infinite limits. Okay, so this is how you are going to find the vertical tangents and cusps, and once you know that a special type of a point exists, then this will be the shape of the graph close to that particular point. Okay, you do not know whether beyond this it is again rising or what is happening, but close to this point it is going to behave in this manner. Okay, is this concept clear? So maybe I'll take up one question. Okay, so this is the function fx which we have with us, x to the power 2 by 3 2x plus 5. This is the solved example from your book which I have taken, and the next step is to find the derivative of this function. So you can apply the product rule, or you can just multiply the terms and then differentiate it. It's the same thing. So when I apply the product rule and differentiate using that, I get this these two expressions. So here you can see, you can take out 10 by 3 into x power minus 1 by 3 common, and you'll be left with x plus 1. So basically this term in x goes in the denominator part, so there's a negative power to this, so this would be in the denominator part. So at what point will f dash become 0, sorry, will have an infinite limit? For what value of x will f dash has an infinite limit?
Zero.
0. When your x is 0, then in that case your f dash is going to have an infinite limit. But will it be different on both sides of 0, or will it be the same sign? When you approach f dash from the left of 0, from negative values of when you are approaching f dash, or when you are approaching the point 0 origin, what is the limit on the left and what is the limit on the right? Purvi, can you answer this?
No, ma'am, I could not get it. Please explain again.
What is the limit? This is clear to you, that limit of f dash as x approaches 0 from either of the sides is going to be infinity. Purvi, is this part clear?
No, ma'am.
Not
How
clear?
is this infinity?
Your x goes in the denominator, so you have this as 10 by 3.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So
Yeah.
if you approach to 0 from either of the two sides, you are going to get 1 by 0 type form. And so because this numerator is finite and you have another finite, so only thing which is going to dominate is that 1 by x to the power 1 by 3 term, and that will make the whole thing infinite. Now when you approach this particular expression from the left of 0, what value are you going to get? Is it positive infinity or negative infinity?
Negative infinity.
Negative, because you are going to take values of x that are very very small but negative values, and when you take a cube root, this is 1 by 3 power, so that's a cube root of this x. So when you take cube root of a negative number, you are going to get a negative sign there. Okay, so this limit is minus infinity. And when you approach x from the right hand side of 0, that means you are taking values of x that are close to 0 but are positive, your expression is going to have all positive values, and so you will say that the limit is plus infinity. So what type of a point is it? It is a cusp. Okay, you have opposite signs. So if you have one negative, one positive, then you have a cusp. Okay, and before the point 0 it is minus infinity, so that means your original function is decreasing. So if I just draw it roughly, before this 0 it is decreasing, so it will come like this, and then after 0 it is going to have a positive derivative, so it is going to be increasing. So close to origin, this is a rough shape of your graph of the function. Okay, so it is having a cusp, and this is how it will look like. So there are two possibilities of cusps which I had shown. One is when it is negative first and then positive, and the other one is other way around, it is positive first and then negative. So you will see how these shapes look like. Okay, now the next the next question is this. Okay, and you can solve it and find the derivative. You'll see it like this. Now what can you say about the derivative? Is it becoming infinite at some point when you take the limit?
Yes, ma'am, 0.
Yes, at 0 again. So
It's 0.
and what about the left hand limit and the right hand limit? Will they be same or will they be different?
Different.
Okay, so when you approach
From yeah,
from the left, then
yeah, positive infinity.
and when you approach from the right side,
It's negative infinity. No, it's again
And they
positive.
will be same.
it will be
Again
same.
positive.
Yes,
Again positive.
Positive.
Again
positive.
positive.
So this expression you can, if you want, you can just write it like this: x plus 1 divided by, this is the cube root of x square. Okay, so it is x to the power 2 by 3, so you can just write it like this: cube root of x square. So whether you take x from the negative side of 0 or from the positive side of 0, this expression is going to be positive, so the limit will be plus infinity from either side. Okay, so from both the sides your limit is going to be plus infinity, and so this point is going to have a vertical tangent at 0. Okay, at origin the graph of the function is going to have a vertical tangent. So how will the shape look like close to origin? Roughly, okay, you can see the exact pictures in your book also. So roughly if we draw, it is plus infinity, so it is increasing throughout. Okay, so here also it will be increasing, and again here it is going to be increasing. So but this is like a sharp turning point here. Okay, so sharply it is going to turn. So you can just or just make it more like this and then this. Okay, so you will see that there is a sharp turn in the graph, and it is increasing throughout. So this is roughly the shape, but obviously you can't have we do not have the entire picture right now, because for that we'll have to check some more properties of the function fx to get to know that. Okay, so you can check from your book. In the book also it is given what is the exact shape, okay, of the entire graph. Now this particular topic, as such, you are not required to do it when you do curve sketching, so only when there's a separate question being asked. So for curve sketching, whatever steps I had mentioned in the beginning till asymptotes, that is all you are required to do. This part as such is not to be done in your curve sketching part, but in case you are asked to do a separate question like only find vertical tangents and cusps, or find the asymptotes and then find vertical tangents, so if you have specifically this thing being asked in the question, then you may use this. Otherwise I don't I mean from my side there's no uh, uh, compulsion of using this for sketching the graph. Okay, there is no such requirement. You can sketch it using concepts till asymptotes. Okay, so only the derivatives, uh, checking critical points, checking points of intersection, and checking the asymptotes, so all this is sufficient for sketching. this is not an essential part of sketching, but in case there is a separate question on this, then you would have to attempt. Okay, so that is all in this particular section 4.4. Okay.